So last week I managed to become the Drennan Winter Pole Champion. So if you want to follow me to my road to success, carry on watching. So last week we headed down to the tremendous Tunnel Barn Farm for the Drennan Winter Pole Championship, one of the major festivals on the calendar year. I love coming to here. There's 3 of them a year. We have the Spring Festival, the Daiwa Pole Fishing Masters and the Drennan one at this time of year, which is just going into the winter time. I actually had 3 fantastic days fishing on 2 different lakes. I managed to draw the same lake twice, but on one of the days I never drawn a different lake. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you a full in-depth rundown of each day and how it went for me, because every day was different tactics worked on different days, and I think it was really interesting. So what we'll do is we'll head over to the first day now and have a look at the peg and see how we got on. So day 1 we drew high pool. Let's head over there now and have a look at the peg. So you join me on high pool, and the peg that I drew on day 1 was peg 50. So let's have a closer look at the peg and get into detail on how I went about fishing the peg on day 1. Right, so this is the peg 50 on high pool. A lovely peg, a big open water bowl in front of you, which tends to hold a lot of fish, which is what you want on high pool really. There's quite a big winey lake with a few bowls in different areas, and at this area here is where the carp tend to live. So that was a bit of a bonus for day 1's draw. Now, when I got to my peg and I was setting up, there was a few star anglers in my section, so I knew it was going to be tough that day. I had Jon Arthur, one of our fellow Matrix anglers, next peg to me. And then further down the lake is a local lad to me, Colin Scott, really good angler. And then after him was Alex Doherty. So it was going to be a really tough section, to be honest with you. But I was confident because I know this area can be really good. I'll be honest with you, 48 peg's probably the best peg in this section, just because it's on that right-hand point, and that's where the carp tend to live, on that right-hand point of that open water. But I was still quietly confident. You've got to be confident on these festivals, because if you go to your peg negative, I think you get negative results. So I was going confident. Now we'll move on to how we approach the peg on this day. So I put 2 short lines in on maggots, one right in front of me on a top kit and one, just in case the fish wanted to come right in front of your nets, and then another short line on at 5 metres on an angle to me right, just because I thought, well, it's towards the bowl area. I didn't put it to me left. I didn't think that'd be any good in that corner, because there's an angler on peg 2 opposite over there, and it's you sort of end in a little bit in a corner. So I put it on an angle to me right towards that bowl at 5 metres. So they were my 2 short lines, and then I put another line in at 17 metres it is. It's quite long across there to that point. Just on the right-hand side of the area, there was a nice little spot. It was 3 foot deep, and I just went across there to fish hard pellets. I think you need to fish hard pellets when you're fishing across there, because it's quite a long way. You don't want to be shipping back all the time with micro and expander on, because you'll be striking your expander off all the time. Plus, in 3 foot of water, hard pellets are definitely probably the way to go with that, just tapping a few in with an hard pellet on the hook. So that was that, and then I set up an edge line to my left in 2 foot of water against the bank, because my mate Christian Jones drew on this lake last year on 46, and I remember he caught some in the edge really late, and on every venue that you go to there's always some edge fish to be caught really late, so I put that in. They were my lines for the day. I did put another line in at 13 metres as well, just to catch some maggots up and down. That's in the deep water, deepest part of my peg. So that was all my lines for the day. Now how the match went, so, I forgot to mention as well before the match went, I had another line as well. I had quite a few lines that day. I had a line short on pellets, on soft pellets, but obviously that's the same line as where I put maggots. I switched that to maggots after that. But when I started my session, I started short on mics and expanders, because it can be really good here at Tunnel, starting on mics and expanders short. You can get a little run quickly at the start. I started on that, and I'll be honest with you, I was quite surprised it wasn't great. I was just sprinkling a few micros in with an expander on. I sat there being patient. I missed a bite, come back, repeat the process, missed another one, and I fouled up one and lost one, and I thought, that's not a great start. And I watched Jon Arthur. He'd shipped across and he caught a carp straight away on hard pellets. You can see Jon, he's quite close to me on the next peg. So I thought, right, I'm going to have to go long. So I got me a cross rig up, put an hard pellet on, just filled a medium matrix pot up with hard pellets in with a sprinkle lid, shipped across, and all you do is dunk your pot before you go out because you don't want your pellets coming out your pot all over the place. But ship across, get to your position, turn your pot over and just tap like 2 pellets out, dead negative, and flick a rigging. I did that and literally caught an F1 straight away. So I thought, yeah, that's going to be a good tactic, that. So I caught an F1 and then I sort of started persevering with that, and then I nicked a couple of carp. It wasn't great, to be honest with you. You get little runs on it, kept you ticking over, but I'd looking up and down the lake and it was fishing quite difficult, to be fair. Further down the section they were struggling, so I thought I'll keep doing that, and Jon was catching an odd one doing that, so I kept persevering with that. But in the meantime, I'd switched that short pellet line to maggots and my 5 metre line with maggots. I was chucking some maggots on that. Now this time of year, when I say chucking maggots, it's not like the summertime when you're chucking 20, 30 maggots on it quite regular. You're chucking it on it quite regular, but you've got to restrict your feed. So chucking like 10 maggots, 8 to 10 maggots twice, regular feeding, keep it going in. And I'll be honest, the match was pretty simple for me this day. I literally had little runs across on hard pellets, and then he had 2 runs short on maggots. I had a good run short on maggots right in front of me, probably caught 30, 40 pound there, and then he had a run at 5 on my maggot line at 5 metres. He had a few there as well, and then the rest on pellets across. I did try my maggot line at 13 metres up and down. I never had a sign on that, which was quite surprising because you think there'd be quite a few fish, numbers of fish further out your peg, but that day all the F1s seemed to want to be short in a bit of shallower water. I did try my edge late on as well, potting some ground bait. I'd been priming that last couple of hours every 20 minutes, putting some ground bait on it, but I never had a sign on that neither. So I had a run short, 2 runs short, 2 little runs short, 1 quite close and 1 at 5 metres, and then a run on pellets across, well, 2 little runs on pellets across, and you caught mainly carp when you did that. And I finished with £96, which was enough to win the section for day 1. Jon Arthur had 91, so it was a close battle. Jon caught everything across on pellets, mainly carp. He had some carasio as well, because there is some carasio in this lake. And the lads a bit further down, I think they had 40 odds and there was a 40 odd and a 50 pounds. So I think they struggled a little bit down there, to be honest with you. I don't think that's as good as up this end of the lake. The wind was blowing down there, but for some reason, this little area holds quite a lot of fish in this little area here. So, like I say, I won my section for day 1, £96. Great start. On these festivals, you just want to try and get yourself off to a good start. Keep that positivity going into day 2. So what we'll do now, we'll head over to day 2's draw on New Pool. So here we are on New 19. This is my peg that I drew on day 2. So let's have a little rundown of how I was going to approach it. So on this one, a few of the lads who stopped in our lodge with me this week drew on this lake on day 1. So that's a good thing about stopping with people in lodges and things like that. You can sort of get a bit of information on how the lake's fished if they've been on it, and there was Andy Bennett who'd been on peg 1 opposite over there, and Sam Slockett had been on peg 7 at the other end. So they give me a good idea of what depths I needed to fish in on the lake. But what I still did is, I do like to do this, I do like to fish my own way as well at the same time. So what I did was I set quite a number of rigs up short in different depths of water just to cover all my options. So what I did was I set up, again, a rig at 5 metres in front of me this time. It was just where it was flat in 3.5 foot to fish. Start on soft pellets again, micros and expanders, and switch that to maggots. And then I had a number of lines. I had a line in 2 foot to my left and a line in 30 inch to my right in different depths of water, just to chuck some maggots on. And also as well, pot a bit of ground bait on it, because I'd been on this lake before and I knew in the past that potting a quantity of ground bait on a line and chucking some maggots over it was really good. So I thought, I had that in my mind from last time, I thought I'm going to do that again. So I put that in 2 foot here to my right, just potting 100 mil of ground bait, chucking some maggots. So there were my lines short, and then he had a line long at 13 metres into the bowl area, because these two, between 19 and 17 in the middle of winter, they're probably the 2 best winter pegs, because all the big old F1s and carp ball up there. and that's where they all sit. So I thought, well, it's the deepest part of your peg as well, so if you're going to catch some fish on this festival, you were going to catch them up and down on that line with maggots. So I've put 13 metres in the ball in the deepest part of my peg, probably 4.5 foot deep, 5 foot, just to catch the maggots up and down. And there were my lines basically. I started short on mics and expanders. Again, it wasn't great, same as day one, but I felt like I had to put it in because, as I explained from the last festival that I fished, that was normally good on tunnel to start on a bit of mics and expanders. But again, it wasn't great. I had one little stocky on it and I was missing quite a few bites, so I soon come off that and dropped on my maggot lines in a bit shallower water, and I started stringing a few stockies together. My section goes from 19 all the way to 31 to my left. So I could actually see every angler in my section to my left. So I was keeping an eye on them at the same time, and they weren't really catching much. There was an odd fish coming out. Alan Scott Form was to my left. He was catching odd stocky, but I was catching stockies as well. So I kept ticking away on them maggot lines short. Probably got to about £15, £20, and it went to go a bit funny on me. So I decided, right, I'm going to go long on my 13 metre line. Dropped on the bottom, caught a stocky on it straight away, come back, got that in, went back in, struck, I had a bite, struck, and a foul looked a big F1, and I felt it come off. You could tell it was a big F1 because it was pulling me about a little bit, come off. So I come back, picked my winter Maggie rig up, little prototype rig that we have at Matrix that's not out yet, but it might be coming out very soon. Went in, 2 foot deep, slapped it over, and literally as it was trimming up, it just kept going with a carp, and I thought, ooh, there could be a few here today. Shallow, because I could see an odd fish topping just past where I was feeding my bait. So I got that carp in, went back out, flipped my rig in again, and another carp. I thought, oh yes, get ready as you do type of thing. But I never had another carp after that, by the way. But I did have some good little runs on that winter Maggie line. I ended up catching 12 big F1s and 2 carp on that line, and then everything else just short on maggots. What was really, really good at one point was that word potted some ground bait in. I was just potting 100 of ground bait in. Like I said, just chucking maggots over it, little and often, just 8 to 10 maggots, just keep it going in. I had a little run on that was good, but it was just a case of swapping through your lines. You could never clatter them all down one hole on one line. You had to keep moving about through your lines and catching them that way. But that was my match basically. I ended up with £118, which was actually enough to win the whole match on day 2. So that was a great result for me. But the most important thing was to win my section. So I was made up to win my section and get me on 2 points going into the last day and all to play for. That's just what you want, because on these festivals with a standard of angler, you just know every time that 3 points are going to win the festival, so you've got to win your section every day. So I'm on 2 points going into day 3. So let's head over to day 3, back on high pool. So you join me back on high pool for the final day of the festival, and we drew peg 48 on high pool, next door to where I was on day 1. So I was made up with that because I did say that I felt like this was the best peg in the section, which I felt gave me more confidence going into that last day. But I'm going to be honest with you, I sort of drew a really, really tough section. I had Andy Bennett on 50 peg, which I won the lake off on day 1. Further down the lake, I had young Rob Swan, who's on fire at the minute. He's in top form. And then on the end of our section, we had another great angler, Lee Thornton. So it was going to be tough. To be fair, I'll be honest with you, on this festival, you can't get away from starstruck anglers because the standard of angler is so good on these big festivals here at Tunnelbarn Farm. On day 1, like I said, I had Jon Arthur, Colin Scott, Alex Doherty. Day 2, I had Alan Scott Fawn, Neil Machin, and then today, obviously, I've got Andy Bennett, young Rob Swan, and Lee Thornton. So it was going to be tough, but I'm one of them anglers. I keep positive and just give it me all. Put everything into me fishing and make sure I try and get the best from my peg. So I'll give you a little bit of a rundown of where I was going to approach it for the day. So obviously we're being on 50 on day one. I thought, right, I'll sort of do some similar tactics to that. And obviously I could see Jon on day one and how he caught on hard pellets across. So that was going to be my approach really. I set up a couple of lines again, short on maggots, one of them to start on soft pellets and switch it to maggots. Again, I set up a line in the bowl. I know I never caught anything on day one on it, but I'm still covering all my options because you know what it's like in fishing. Every day can be different, not one day is the same sometimes. So I set that up again just in case. And then I set a cross up on pellets, hard pellets. Again, it's 17 metres wide, just to the point. This time it was a bit shallower across. It was like 2 foot across, nice and flat. So that's what I plumbed up in and that's how I was going to fish it. Now, I started on soft pellets this time on Matrix and expanders, and I was keeping a sneaky eye on Bennett next door, and he started on that as well. We sort of both put our line in. My line was to the left towards the ball, and his was to the right towards the ball at 5 metres on pellets. And he's gone in, sat there. We're both being patient. I watched him. He's got a carp straight away. It's like a 6 pound carp. And I've sat there, never had another one. Then he's gone in again, and he's been patient and got another one. I thought, oh no, here we go. He's gonna do me on this today. But I kept my confidence, and eventually I caught a big F1 on soft pellets. But that's all I had, and I thought I definitely need to ship over and try and catch some carp across on pellets. So I decided to go over on hard pellets. Again, medium matrix pot, just fill it to the top with 4mm hard pellets, dunk your pot before you go out, ship across a 4mm hard pellet. I was switching between a 4mm hard pellet and a 6mm hard pellet. I never really worked out what was best on the day, but I did switch between both on the hook. But like I say, I was shipping across, turning my pot over, just tapping 2 out, being dead negative, little strung out rig, flicking it in. And I caught one straight away, 4 pound carp, so that gave me a bit of confidence in it. But then I went out, I was doing the same, repeating the process, flicking my rig, and I was missing a bite, foul looking and odd and coming off, so I thought I'd try and tinker with my feeding pattern a little bit, tapping a few more, see if I can pin them on the bottom, but I just couldn't settle them on hard pellets. I catch an odd one and it weren't great, so I made this decision to switch it to ground bait because I felt like it was the right depth. It was lovely and flat across, so tight against the bank it was 2 foot, which I thought was perfect. So I switched it to ground bait, and that was great. I got runs of F1s, an odd carp, and a couple of Carasio, because I think there is some Carasio. This is the only lake that's got Carasio in, and they seem to live around here because Jon Arthur had some on day one, a Carasio, and that's how it was. I believe it or not, on day one he had like I said, he had 2 good runs short. On the last day of this festival, I caught 3 or 4 F1s short, so it just shows how every day is different. And obviously Jon caught on hard pellets across on day one, where I've caught most of my fish on ground bait. Now that's how I fished it. I disregarded my 13.5 metre line because I kept keeping an eye on Bennett to me left, and he never dropped on it neither. He was catching on hard pellets. It was really nip and tuck between me and Bagger all the way through the match, to be honest with you. But the last 40 minutes of my match, it sort of started to fade away from me a little bit. I was getting less indications across on that across line, so I thought, right, what can I do here? So what I did was I put 200mm ground bait on it, just tried to sort of force me peg a little bit. It was getting to that time of the day as well where you are trying to, them carp are coming on the feed, so you want to try and draw a few carp in. So I put 200mm ground bait on it and come and dropped off it for 10-15 minutes, just sat short. I caught 2 stocky F1s short on maggots, and then with 15 minutes to go, shipped back across, potted some ground bait in, just put 3 maggots on the hook, sat there being patient, went straight under with a big F1. Again, went back in another F1 and another carp, and I feel like that was a really good decision in my match on that day, on the last day. Now, when it comes to results, it was quite tight. Bennett he weighed in 74 pound. I weighed in 81 pound. Young Rob on the end weighed in 73 pound. So it was quite tight. There was a few fish in it, so that's why I feel like making that decision to go across late was a really good move by myself. So I was made up with that decision that I made. I managed to win the section, so that put me on 3 wins. But like I said to you on the last little talk that we did on day 2, you always feel like you've got to have 3 points to win this festival, and there's always more than one person that finishes on 3 points. So once you've done what you can do and won your sections, it all goes off weight count back. So then when we got back to where the results were, the word was going round that I'd won the event, so I was absolutely made up with that. To get my name on another title here at Tunnelbarn Farm, one of the major festivals, is something that I wanted to tick off my list. So I've obviously won the Masters, now I've won the Winter Pole Champs, so I'm absolutely over the moon with that. I can't be more proud of myself. So I had 3 fantastic days fishing. I love coming to this venue, it's unbelievable, but that was my day for day 3, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So that's it, you've seen my full rundown of my festival that I managed to win here at Tunnelbarn Farm last week. But the main reason why we're down here today is we've come down to do a full in-depth maggot masterclass on how you approach it during the winter time to get you right through going into spring next year. So keep an eye out on the Fish Matrix YouTube channel for the full video coming very soon.